Each and every one of us has access to a piece of glass. The chances are you're looking at it now or holding it in your hand. Keeping it close. A magic mirror which captures, contains and conveys back to us an endless array of realities. This is the infinite screen. Last time on the infinite screen.
This week's theme is guilty pleasures.
But David Lynch created his own adaptation, Dune.
1997's Face Off.
Gandahar.
Cleopatra.
Jesus Christ Superstar. This film.
This is going to be a hard sell. The Running Man. Dune at 2, Cleopatra at 3, Face Off at 4.
I think maybe between 3 and 4.
It's a bit of an easier access guilty pleasure, I would say. I'm going to put it in at number 3.
And now, the conclusion.
When I was putting together my picks for this list, I knew there had to be a martial arts film there somewhere. Martial arts as a genre has its kind of glittering high points, like Zhang Yimou's Hero, but there's something about martial arts movies where a large proportion of them just, I think, perfectly capture that combination of cringeworthy acting, story or dialogue with spectacularly enjoyable set pieces. So I'm going to go for Equilibrium 2002. So when this film was released, it was a total flop, grossing 5.3 million from a budget of 20 million. I remember seeing adverts for it at the time and thinking that looks like a shit Matrix clone. But it's more than that. It's also a shit 1984 clone.
Love it.
And in many ways, it's just the perfect mashup of these two ideas, starring Christian Bale, like just on the brink of superstardom, as a dystopian enforcement agent for a state where all art is outlawed, anything which incites anyone to feel anything is outlawed. All citizens are compelled to take a daily dose of this drug, Prosium, to suppress emotions. And the secret police agency that Christian Bale's character works for, they're called clerics. And they're a bit like a brotherhood of like Shaolin monks who've developed this highly flamboyant, ruthlessly precise, invincible style of gunplay called the gun kata, which is basically what this film both succeeds and fails on. It's the perfect guilty pleasure because it looks ridiculous and they treat it so seriously, and yet somehow it's also quite cool. It's an interesting one. Anyway, just to finish up my plot summary. Christian Bale's character, one day he misses his dose, then he starts to feel things, and then he starts to question things, and then he starts to avoid taking his dose, and everything unravels. And before you know it, he has single-handedly dismantled the whole dystopian regime with some blistering action sequences along the way. So, yeah, Christian Bale at his physical peak, I think. I don't think he's looked better in any other film. And he's really convincing in the action sequences. He just commits to it, doesn't he? He totally commits to it. Why guilty? Well, it is utterly ridiculous. The story is also thin. I mean, it's just so derivative, as I hinted, and the dialogue and some of the other performances are pretty awful. It's got that whole thing of I felt like it's a bit like the Zoolander of movies in that it just takes itself so seriously. And it's like so kind of preening and almost like narcissistic, and yet somehow it also works. What do you think?
I haven't seen it. No, never seen it.
Outrageous. Outrageous.
I was thinking something. I think it's interesting. You have guilty pleasures that know they're guilty pleasures. I think Face Off is definitely a guilty pleasure that knows it's a guilty pleasure. And then you have guilty pleasures that act on the total assumption that they are incredibly serious works of art. Dune obviously has that incredible earnestness. Cleopatra has that. And I think this sounds like this has that, and I like that. I like the non-cynicism of it. I like Christian Bale. Does he do martial arts in this movie? I don't think I've ever seen Christian Bale do martial arts.
He's totally kick-ass in this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
He's an unstoppable kung fu machine. And this was the film that, having seen this, that really got me excited for his casting as Batman.
Sounds good, man. I'd love to get stuck into it. Where does it belong in our list?
I think maybe just under The Running Man, maybe.
I think it's definitely above
Yeah.
Face Off for the reason we just discussed.
Yeah.
I'm cooling on Face Off because I think it's a bit too knowing to be a really good guilty pleasure, I think.
Yeah, I think Cleopatra is obviously more important, perhaps, in the history of cinema. So
Yeah.
maybe for that reason it can go under Cleopatra.
Okay, all right, we'll pop it in there. But yeah, another movie I want to see. Great, thanks, Phil.
Your penultimate choice then, Matthew.
Yeah, so my penultimate choice. This is my Jesus Christ Superstar, I think, which is where you just have to be honest about in your life which movies have actually given you the most pleasure. And I think this is for similar reasons. This is again a movie that I've watched many, many times with my family, not with my kids. I don't think I could get them through it, but with my parents. And I am going to give you a 1991 adventure blockbuster. Starring Kevin Costner, Morgan Freeman, and Alan Rickman. And it is going to be Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Some called him an outlaw. Others a hero.
I'm Robin Hood!
But the world would call him a legend. Kevin Costner, Morgan Freeman, Alan Rickman, Christian Slater, and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
I don't know if you remember what it was like when this film came out, but this was the movie event to end all movie events. The level of excitement was truly extraordinary. And to the extent that even just the song that was in the credits was #1 for 16 weeks in the UK singles charts. Courtesy of Bryan Adams, if you remember, when such a thing felt like a very important historical landmark. But
I do remember, absolutely. Yeah, it was mega, wasn't it? It was everywhere, and I saw it several times. I think I saw it 2 or 3 times within the space of like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely the only film for which I've ever participated in pre-ordering a VHS to make sure that it's able to appear in my house on the day of home entertainment release. I mean, if there's people listening to this who haven't seen Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, I think it's probably more and more likely as time passes, but it is the story of Robin Hood, who returns from the Crusades to find that his estate has been laid waste by the vicious Sheriff of Nottingham. It's really not a terribly interesting treatment of the Robin Hood story. So you can probably, if you haven't seen it, you know what the story is. He ends up in the woods and has to fight the Sheriff of Nottingham. And spoiler alert, succeeds at doing so. There's a lot of bad things about this film. And one of them is obviously right in the middle of it, which is 1991 would be what we describe as peak Costner. Kevin Costner could make any film he wanted to make and act however he wanted to act in it. And in Robin Hood, he initially attempted to do the whole thing in a British accent, and then after a few scenes just decided that he couldn't be bothered, so just did it as Kevin Costner. So it means that you have a kind of somewhat downbeat, not very physically impressive American just being Robin Hood in a slight kind of sentimental and often slightly half-hearted way. But on the other side, you have Alan Rickman, who I think turns in one of my all-time most enjoyable movie performances as the Sheriff of Nottingham. He rewrote pretty much every line of his own script, often just as he was starting the scene. He's in a totally different movie to Kevin Costner, and that is a brilliant, schlocky, hilarious medieval romp So I think when I go and watch this movie, I kind of drift off during the Kevin Costner scenes and just come to life during the Alan Rickman scenes. But I love this movie. I absolutely love it. It is a battle between Kevin Costner and Alan Rickman to see whose movie we're watching. And obviously Alan Rickman should have won, but Kevin Costner was the star. So there you go. It's his movie.
Yes, it seems like it's one of those films where there are two films going on in it. And I think Alan Rickman is kind of his take on the material is supported by Michael Winterbottom's kind of gravelly voiced Guy of Gisborne. Like they feel like they're in the same film.
Yeah.
And that whole weird scene about the witch or character of the witch.
Oh yeah, she's well scary. Yeah.
Is so bizarre. And she belongs in the Alan Rickman version of that film.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you've got the Merry Men, and who you haven't mentioned. This was the first time I remember seeing Morgan Freeman.
Oh yes, yes.
And he's got a great kind of soulfulness in that film.
He's kind of in that film. I think he's in. Yeah.
But the main character, you're wanting to kind of perhaps bridge the two tonal aspects of the film, or not. But he is just a plank of wood. He is, he's dreadful. But
and you also have Christian Slater in that movie as well, who I think.
Of course, Christian Slater's in it.
Yeah, I like Christian Slater a lot, but I don't think he is. I don't think he's in the same movie either. I think he's in a Brad Pitt movie. that didn't need to be made about Robin Hood.
Where does it go in the list? I'd say pretty high up. I mean, maybe even number one.
Maybe it does go near the top. I haven't seen Jesus Christ Superstar.
Maybe they could be equal. We could have a joint. Would that be joint second or joint first?
At the moment, it'd be joint first. I'd be uncomfortable with joint first. But let's come back to it.
Okay, it's time for the also rans.
Yes. Okay. What have you got for me? What didn't quite make the list?
Well, I realised that I could have populated an entire list with dodgy Italian films from the 60s and 70s. Hopefully, I'll find a way of bringing some of these into a future list. I guess perhaps the most kind of artistically credible side of it is the Argento movies, Suspiria and Profondo Rosso, which are both wonderful films, but certainly not for everybody. Slightly trashier, you've got Danger Diabolique, and I guess, although not in Italian language, Italian financed, Barbarella.
Oh, yes.
And then other also rans, I thought about Flash Gordon. I thought about Excalibur. And I thought about Blade 2.
Blade 2 is great.
It's good, yeah.
Totally mental. It definitely has one of the most extreme action sequences that I can remember. I thought Excalibur might be your final choice, but it's interesting. Not made the list. Shall I give you a couple of mine? I thought about Tom Cruise movies. And the problem, obviously, generally with Tom Cruise movies is that they are actually quite good and therefore not really that qualified for this list. But if you had, it would definitely be Cocktail, which again is very much a vibe movie. Like it's not a movie you actually want to sit down and watch in too much detail because it's pretty dreadful. But its peaks are spectacular, and it has very, very trashy. And then I went down a rabbit hole at one point of sequels where I know they're not as good as the original, but I did really enjoy them. And I will often find myself reaching for Back to the Future 2 as an example of that. I'm also a sucker, and spoiler alert, I have one of these upcoming. I am a sucker always for a time travel movie. And I like an ambitious swing at good use of time travel. And Back to the Future 2 is definitely the worst of the three Back to the Future movies, but I think it has the best moment, which is the journey to this dystopian future where Biff Tannen has become basically Donald Trump. He's Donald Trump through having discovered the sports almanac. So yes, that's definitely a guilty pleasure because I know I watched it with the kids recently. I could see it losing them, but I do go back to it quite often. And then I had one very sentimental one, which actually we talked about recently, Phil, which was Don Juan de Marco. I like the unashamedly sentimental film, and that is...
I also thought about Don Juan de Marco. and I remember it fondly. I wonder how it would feel on a rewatch with all of the Johnny Depp baggage, because yeah, obviously he's playing that character of the point is he's irresistible to women. It might not kind of yes
No,
feel so watchable these days. I don't know.
I watched the final scene the other day and remember this is a movie that decided to finish with Marlon Brando doing a romantic dance, but obviously at this stage Marlon Brando is not the most mobile actor.
Yeah, the spirit of that film was lovely.
Right,
Cool. Okay.
2 to go. Will we have a champion in the final 2? I don't think it's going to be my one, but I'm interested to hear what yours is, Phil. What's your final choice?
Okay, so this was a fairly clear-cut number one for me out of my film watching career. It is a film that I keep coming back to. I love it. I feel guilty about loving it. It is Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992.
Yes.
Here occurred the frightening and shocking history of Prince Dracula and the woman he loved.
I have crossed oceans of time to find you.
Yeah. Dracula.
So this film is a surprisingly faithful adaptation of Dracula, apart from it adds to huge connected ideas, which provides like an overarching framework for the whole thing. It links Dracula explicitly to the historical Vlad Tepes with the prologue scene, and it adds this idea that that Mina Murray, who then becomes Mina Harker, is the reincarnation of his lost love. And that kind of gives him his motivation for coming to England and basically most of the things that happen in the film. And that's all made up. That's not in, despite the fact that the film calls itself Bram Stoker's Dracula, that is not in the original novel. But I don't mind those hokey additions too much. And the reason that it's great is that, again, I think it's one of these films that takes itself very seriously. It's definitely not, it's not aware that it's a guilty pleasure of a film. And it is so ambitious in terms of the technical camera work, the amazing like camera tricks, practical special effects, amazing sets and costumes, makeup, prosthetics, shadow and lighting effects, amazing music. All of that is so dense. It feels like every single shot is trying something audacious. And it's just oversaturated in that way. Also, some fabulously eccentric performances from Gary Oldman as Dracula and Anthony Hopkins as Van Helsing. I love. Well, Gary Oldman is certainly going full Romanian with his vampire performance, and Anthony Hopkins is brilliant in it. One of my favorite scenes is Anthony Hopkins is I think they're eating, and Mina he has to tell Mina about Lucy, her friend who became a vampire and they had to kill, and Mina says, "Oh, was she in much pain?" And he goes, yeah, she was in a lot of pain. And then we cut off her head, took out her heart, and now she's at peace.
Love that.
Such a great line. So why the guilt, I suppose? Well, Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder are awful. And as supposedly the romantic heart of the story, they are just paper thin. They feel completely out of their depth. Their accents are awful. And it's so kind of campy and excessive as a piece that it's impossible to take it as seriously as it wants to be taken. And yet it's a glorious mess. It's an absolutely glorious mess, and I love it, and I keep coming back to it.
I've come back to this movie several times, largely inspired by your love of it, Phil, and I have to say I find it entirely unwatchable. And I have tried. But I don't think there's any reason for it to not be a guilty pleasure. I think that the nature of these guilty pleasures, they are all very divisive. And I think for everything on our list, I can think of any number of people who would derive absolutely no pleasure from any of these films whatsoever. It definitely is. It is filmmaking turned up to 11. In a very peculiar and often quite unsettling way. Guilty, but I see the pleasure.
But you can't share the pleasure.
I can't quite share the pleasure. Well, it's interesting,
right.
but I very much enjoyed some of those additional story elements that you've described. So the whole crazy Vlad backstory part, I think was probably the part I enjoyed the most. It's very full on.
And that then inspired that film. Is it called Dracula Origins or Dracula Untold, maybe? Which basically just takes that idea and runs with it. That is a film purely about basically Vlad Tepes is Dracula, and then also there's a Luc Besson version of Dracula that came out, I believe, last year. Which, if you think this is unwatchable, then I'll see how you get on with that. I gave up after half an hour. But that completely rips off it felt like a weird, like, are you doing a remake? Because it completely ripped off and remounted that same idea of him searching through history for the reincarnation of his lost love and him as Vlad Tepes in the beginning.
Intriguing. Okay, Phil, where do we think this goes?
For me, like, it's my number one, but from some kind of cobbled together objective sense, I don't know. What do you think? But maybe just under Jesus Christ Superstar, maybe?
Yeah, possibly. It's difficult, isn't it? Because we have, we've got some glorious messes, and the glorious messes feel a bit different from I guess to an extent, at the moment we have Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Jesus. I guess those are movies that landed what they were trying to do broadly, I think. Versus the Dunes and the Cleopatras and I think there's another movie where I think the movie he had in his head is not quite the movie that I experienced. I don't know if he was happy with the movie, but different kinds of pleasure. But I feel like we should give a boost to the ambitious messes. Maybe I feel like maybe they could be.
Sure. So what do you reckon?
I'm happy to tuck it just under the top, Phil, if you are. Okay, are you ready for my final nomination?
I'm ready.
Who would have thought that we would end with 2 Keanu Reeves films? I guess I think he's a very consistent guilty pleasure actor, though, isn't he? I think
yes, certainly.
I think John Wick is a guilty pleasure. I think Point Break is a guilty pleasure. I guess, mate, is that just because he's inherently quite bad? Is that
maybe? But he's quite bad, but somehow watchable.
Yes, he's a watchable bad actor who tends to get involved in good projects.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, but I have a Keanu Reeves movie to finish with. It is a 1989 sci-fi comedy, and it is, as promised, a time travel movie. I think of all movies in the world, this is the one that most consistently makes me feel really, really great, which I think is what I'm looking for in a guilty pleasure. And that is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, Napoleon.
We're from history.
Billy the Kid.
Oh my God.
Joan of Arc. Sigmund Freud.
Tell me about your mother. You a musician?
Beethoven.
Genghis Khan!
Abraham Lincoln.
Party on, dudes!
Socrates. George Carlin.
We're history.
If you guys are really us, what number are we thinking of? 69, dudes!
Bill and Ted's
Excellent! Excellent!
Excellent Adventure.
Party on, dude.
Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter, 2 dim teenagers who are about to fail their history exam and be sent to military school, which I think is the film they should have made as well. I think you should have seen
yes.
military school. I think that would have been great. But fortunately, just in the nick of time, a phone booth appears containing George Carlin, if you'd forgotten that George Carlin was in this movie, and teaches them how to time travel. Well, firstly tells them that they are musicians whose music will ultimately save the human species and bring peace to the world. And obviously, the only way to resolve the situation is for them to travel through time, abducting famous historical figures so they can get help with their history coursework. So it's quite an unpromising premise. But what happens, obviously, is that Bill and Ted travel through history and abduct such characters as Socrates, or Socrates, as Keanu Reeves puts him, Billy the Kid, Napoleon. Yeah. So this hits various buttons for me. So this is, I'll start with the pleasure. I love time travel movies. I love time travel stories of all kinds. And normally I have quite a high benchmark for how people have resolved time travel in a movie. But this movie just marches straight through the middle of that and pays absolutely no attention to that. It immediately just goes for the most simple approach to time travel, which is the bootstrap paradox approach of time travel, which is that because they have a time machine, at any time they're capable of doing anything, because they just have to decide to do it later. But then they don't need to do it later because they've already done it. So there's a brilliant moment where they need keys to escape jail, and they say, well, why don't we later on use the time machine to go and steal the keys and put them here? And they check and the keys are there. And then they say, oh, we have to remember to go and put the keys back there later on. They say, well, we don't need to because we've already got them. So it's, yeah, it totally uses and abuses time travel. So I love it because it's a time travel movie that makes me stop worrying about the mechanics of time travel and just takes all of that out of my hands and gives me a moment of joy. I love it because it reminds me again of being a 10-year-old that loved history and liked to imagine different places and spaces, and to be dropped in the middle of a Mongol horde or a Napoleonic battlefield was brilliant. The reason why it stuck with me in the end is the same reason why it is probably guilty, which is I think this is probably one of the most simple-minded and sentimental movies that's ever been made. Which, again, if you've forgotten it, it ends with Abraham Lincoln saying, be excellent to each other. It is just the purest, most naive, most simple, positive view of the world wrapped in pure silliness. So it's wafer thin, it's total nonsense, but it makes me feel preposterously good every time I watch it. And yes,
nice. That's a very good championing of that film. I think it's interesting. Your choices perhaps are a little bit more, well, are certainly more sentimental than mine. I think, and my choices are perhaps more like from a technical, artistic point of view. What's interested me, like like sets or effects or ambition in terms of creating an environment, rather than a wholesomeness to the core emotional core of the story.
Well, I think I found it very difficult throughout this process to avoid the kind of nostalgia and the emotional resonance that comes off things, because really all of the things that I find are like, I know that if I came to that now, I would not be engaged by it and I wouldn't be attracted by it, but because it has resonance with that kind of formative time in my life, the way I felt about it then suspended my critical faculties, I suppose. Maybe I'm yearning.
I think that's absolutely right. Yeah, I think that's kind of unavoidable with this topic. It's going to be like that, and I think that's perhaps where that kind of the guilt comes from in the guilty pleasure, guilty of recommending something because you're so aware that part of the reason why you like it is so personal.
Yes, yeah. And it's inherently unsophisticated because it's before I'd really developed the sense of sophistication that I like. Probably not Face Off. I don't have that excuse of Face Off. Definitely by 1997 I knew better. But the rest of these, they hit me at a moment where I was just very open, I suppose, to all of these different things, and the idea of judging things wasn't so high up my list.
I think it goes goes. Well, I think I should honour the fact that you've put it as your number one choice. I think it should go. It's such feels like a more kind of nostalgic choice, or more kind of, yeah, as I say, wholesome emotional choice than mine.
Maybe it's not guilty enough. I don't know. Don't know. What do you think?
Give us the
okay, so currently we have, I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. Gandahar, Face Off, Equilibrium, Cleopatra, Running Man, June, Dracula, and then we have Robin Hood in a Face Off with Jesus Christ Superstar, which sounds like a good movie. Where does it belong?
Above Cleopatra.
And below the Running Man.
And below the Running Man.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think it's not quite guilty enough. I think the balance is not quite right. And not that I'm suggesting it's a great work of cinema, but it's less obviously flawed than I think all the other movies on this list.
Well, amazing. We've done it. We've created a definitive for the ages, a top 10.
That is our fairly definitive list of infinite screen guilty pleasures.
Well, it's an eccentric list, but I've enjoyed chatting those choices through with you. And of course, if anybody ever listens to this podcast, of course, thousands of people will. But yes, give us your thoughts, give us your recommendations, give us your guilty pleasures, and let us know as well if you have any good ideas for future themes for our episodes.
Awesome. Thank you. So you should be able to find this wherever you get podcasts. If you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe.
Peace out. Catch you next time.